What's a myth, Keon? What's a myth, James? A myth from the gym.
Meth?
Meth is fun.
That you don't have to go all the way down on squats.
Knees over toes. So you can't let your knees go over your toes. Myth number one. Let's talk a little bit about it. Coach Costa here, IFBB Pro. Today, we're gonna be busting some myths. Particularly, knees going over your toes are bad? I don't think so. Check out why. Let's say that we all agree that your knees going over your toes is just fine. But why does it matter, right? Well, your knees going over your toes basically means that you're gonna be able to put your quad under a bigger lengthened position than you would otherwise. Now, the lengthened position is important because we've found, at least from what we know so far, that stretch-mediated hypertrophy, okay, is one of the biggest kind of correlating factors that we found in growing the muscle. So how much we can put that muscle under stretch will also dictate how much of a hypertrophy effect we can have on that muscle. So by trying to set ourselves up in a way where we're maximizing the stretch under load, we're also able to strengthen our tendons because they're also being stretched. And we're also able to use lighter weight because generally going down harder, going down lower is harder. Now, the trick to this, and I'm not saying that everyone should be able to start absolutely squatting completely down, and everyone's squats might look a little bit different, like the way that our hips are shaped, the way that our hip sockets actually fit inside of our hips are all gonna differ a little bit. A lot of these people who can't squat down all the way is simply because they haven't found the right setup in order to get them to do that. Take, for example, me, right? I have pretty long femurs. So it goes a really long way with me to be able to wear squat shoes or at least position myself in some way where my heels are slightly elevated to allow for my long femurs to travel more forward and my knees will be able to go over my toes that way. If I keep my feet flat, I'm not gonna be able to move my knee over my toe without me loading all the way to the balls of my feet and not loading my heels. So by elevating my heels on a solid platform, I'm still able to maintain an even tension and throughput through my foot, but I'm able to also compensate for my long femur and maintain a more erect or upright torso. On the inverse side of things, if you ever notice someone who's like really naturally good at squats, they have very short femurs and a longer torso, which allows them to stay more vertical in the squat position to get all the way down. When you have long femurs, they force you to lean forward, and that can be a big problem for a lot of people in their lower back. So what you'll notice here, hi, how you doing? A nice little angle right here, is I have my feet super low because I have my heel elevated squat shoes that I talked about earlier on. And you're gonna see how low I try to get on this, okay? Common myth, a lot of people say that your knees can't go over your toes or else it's gonna hurt your knees. You'll kind of hear this, especially from people kind of in the older, kind of old school generation of bodybuilding. They'll use it to justify either not going down as low or they'll use it to justify just not doing squats in general. When a lot of the times the reason that these very same people's knees hurt is actually because they don't actually train their knees to take the weight. They only train their actual muscles. So there's a difference between training your muscles and training your tendons, and going through full range of motion also gets a lot more tendon stimulation. You'll see this a lot in weightlifters. If you actually look at the literature, weightlifters actually have the least amount of knee injuries. And when you really analyze their movement, you'll see that they're one of the people who get the deepest in their squats, especially for their snatches. Being able to get that bar over their head and being able to sit in that really deep squat position is absolutely necessary for them. So in this case, you'll notice that they don't injure their knees because they're always practicing getting and loading that knee under those angles.